Hi, this is Becky Nunn with Nunn Design, and I'm shooting on location here at Beadaholique. In this video I want to show you how you can use crystal clay, which is an epoxy air-dry clay, and embed rhinestone chain, but we're going to show ball chain, and how you can use it in many different examples like you're seeing here, all the way from a curved surface to an open back bezel, another curved surface, here it is on another curved surface. You can even use it as little accents and embed things in. These earrings, some fun lapel pins up here showing how you can use them. So it has all of the ball chain embedded in the crystal clay, even on the rings and on pendants. For this video, you're going to need some ring shanks. We're going to work on creating a project like this one here. You can use even open back bezels, and I'll show you how to do that. You can use itsy bitsy little ones, or even giant monstrous ones like this. So you'll want to select some different bezels that you would like to work with. You'll need some crystal clay. This is a 2-part epoxy clay, and in the little kit it comes with the clay itself, some gloves that you'll need to wear when you're mixing the clay, and it also comes with a little toothpick applicator that has beeswax on it that makes it easy to pick up the items. The crystal clay is a great product. It allows you to work for up to 2 to 2.5 hours after you've mixed it, and then it fully cures at 14 to 16 hours, and there's no baking and there's no shrinking. So this is a really great product for embedding. We're going to be embedding some different scraps of ball chain. I'm using the faceted ball chain, and as you see I've already pinched off 2 equal sized balls to mix. So the first step of this is we're going to clean our bezels. This is just something that I've gotten in the habit of, is always getting my bezels nice and clean before I actually put the epoxy clay in there or any resin in there. It just helps the finished look be even better. So all of these findings, these are brass. This one actually here, the top part is cast lead-free pewter, and then it's soldered with lead-free pewter onto a brass blank. Let's see, let's go ahead and I'm going to make this one here, and I want that little open back bezel that I had earlier. Where did he go? Oh, inside another one. So we're going to use these 2 right here. So this one is solid brass, and after we have them soldered, they're then plated with 24 karat gold, 0.99 fine silver, and then an oxidization is put on the outside on that plating to give it an aged look. So I'm going ahead and just cleaning off that excess oxidization. You can see that blackening that's coming up on my Q-tip. This is just a great step to get in the discipline of whenever you're working with the resins, either the 2-part epoxy resin or the 2-part epoxy clay. It's just to give the bezel a nice clean surface for those two items to stick to. Also, when I'm working with the white, sometimes this black comes off on my white clay, so I just have the discipline of always cleaning my pieces first. Once you're finished, put your rubbing alcohol away. So on this piece here, you can see that it has a backing like this. What I found is great is to go ahead and put a small piece of packing tape as you're beginning. After a while, you'll be able just to put your finger on there and put that clay in there. But for this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of packing tape onto the back side of my bezel to hold that clay into place. So cut off a little bit of the tape. We just need a small little surface area. And press it onto the back of your ring shank, giving a nice solid surface. I like to trim away any excess that I might have so that I don't have that snagging on other things. Alright, so with my tape in position on the back side of my bezel and my bezels cleaned, I'm ready to start the next step. And that's going to be mixing my 2-part epoxy clay. So I've already pinched off the 2 equal-sized balls. Other things I'll need for this is a pair of flush cutters because I'll be cutting the chain as I go along, and a couple of toothpicks. Sometimes I might need those. So when the epoxy clay is in this phase, this is the resin itself. It's a really good idea to always wear the gloves that come in the package of the clay when these are in its raw form. Once these 2 pieces are mixed together fully, the clay is then activated and then you can take off your gloves. Sorry, I'm not wearing my gloves right now. Don't do as I'm doing. So you blend these 2 together until they're no longer marbled and they'll be blended all together. The crystal clay comes in many different colors. This black that I use this quite frequently, black, brown, and white, because they just go great with the different colors of the findings that we have, and I find that those are just really solid colors for all the different techniques that we offer. This clay is super, super moist and really, really wet. And as it's warming up in the room, you can see that the black of the clay is coming off on my fingers. That's the dye. That's why it's nice to also wear the gloves, because then you don't get that on your fingers. Once you've mixed your 2 parts together and it's no longer marbled and it's fully blended together, spend a little bit of time, make sure that you get all of that off of your hands. You should have had your gloves on, so you'll pull your gloves off. And if this is super moist, you can let this sit for an hour or so, at least 30 minutes, and it'll get a little bit firmer and maybe easier to work with than when it's really super soft like this. It's just really sticky. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how you do this next step. On this smaller bezel here, I only need a tiny bit of the clay. I pinched off a small ball and then I'm rolling it around in the palm of my hands with one of my fingertips, making it a nice smooth ball. Then I'm going to take it and place it into my bezel, and I'm going to take a look. Am I going to have a really high dome? I kind of want to have a slight dome, as you see in the sample here. It's not a very high dome, just a very slight dome. So I might have too much clay in there, but let me just check it out. Nope, I think I have it just right. If you had too much clay, you could pinch that out, take that ball out and pinch some off, and then roll it again and get it nice and smooth. But I had just the right amount. If you don't have enough, you can add more to it, and you just pat it down into the bezel. And I'm holding it so my finger is on the ring shank, so I'm pressing up from this side to make sure that that clay is going down into the surface of the bezel and will be nice and flush and flat. Then on the second bezel, I'm going to go ahead, I think I'm going to have plenty of clay. I'm going to roll this into a nice round ball in the palm of my hands. And so it's easiest if there's not any creases in the clay, and that's why I like to roll it first. Before I start patting this down, I'm going to wash my hands a little bit more because I have a little bit of that clay on my fingertips, and I don't want to get that onto the surface of my ring shank or on my bezel, because it will harden like cement once it's dried. What I love about these techniques is you do have quite a bit of time to work with the clay before it starts to cure. So I placed the ball in there, and then I patted it down, bringing it over to the side edges, as you're seeing there, and created a nice domed ball inside of the ring shank. Don't worry about getting it quite perfect, because it'll move around a little bit as you go, but you want to have it be somewhat like this. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and start adding the ball chain to the ring shank. Well, I have some gold remnants. I like to save all my little bits and parts and pieces because I can use them for projects like this. Starting at the outside edge, I'm going to start out by just slightly pressing my my ball chain right into the clay. I'm not going to want to push down too hard, but I want it to be enough so it stays in position. Now I'm going to wrap it around the outside edge of my ring shank and go all the way around to the next starting edge. I had a little fuzz on my finger from the wet wipe. As I come around to where I started wrapping, I'm going to kind of get an idea of, okay, so I'm going to cut about right there. So I'm going to take my flush cutters and come inside and cut that little ball right there and place it into position. Now I'm going to use my fingers. I'm actually going to bring this down a little bit closer to that edge. All right, now once I have my ball chain placed around that outside edge, I'm ready to do the next layer in. And you can get creative here. You could mix your metals and do different colors of clay, different colors of ball chain, I mean. You can mix it with other styles. Start off again the same way, slightly tack it down at the beginning point, and then continue to press it into the clay right next to the other ball chain. Same as last time, right when we get to this starting point of where this is going to start to meet up, we're going to take our flush cutters and trim away that excess. Now if you cut way too long or way too short, you can come back in and add a ball later if you want to. Let's say it's about right there. And press it in. Now I'm going back in and I'm slightly pressing it down and tacking it into the clay, but not too hard. If you press it down too hard, it'll kind of get all cattywamped and you'll have a little bit more of a challenge. What's nice about this technique is you can do this the first time, and if you don't like your results after you've done all of this, you can pull it out, pull your chain off, and start all over. It's a very forgiving medium. And your first one probably won't come out exactly as you're seeing it here. I have a little bit of experience. So the next one started off the same way, embedded the first part, just slightly tacking it down, and now I'm bringing it around and laying it down right next to the last row that I did. When you start to get to the very center point, your chain is going to start to get to the point where it can't make that radius. And so you'll need to lay in individual pieces into the clay. Let me show you. Instead of going all the way around and stopping, you'll go around partial. We might be able to make that one. Oop, I made that final last radius. I'll do it on the next one. So I'm using the Nunn Design Faceted ball chain on this piece. It's a brass ball chain that is then plated with 24 karat gold here in the United States. And so it has a different, it's plated differently. It's it's very, very malleable. So if you do use a different type of chain, you might not have an easy time on the radiuses that you just saw there. So on this last couple of ones, I'm just doing like 2 or 3 little balls worth and trimming that off and then embedding that. Inside of the kit for the crystal clay comes this little toothpick that has a little bit of beeswax on it, and that can make it really easy for you to pick up the items and embed them in. So that was 3 balls that I laid down on that side. Make sure that's fully embedded. This might be one of those times where you might want to use your toothpick to put it into position. And I think we might do another, like 2 balls on this side. I'll start out with 3 and see what that looks like, and then I might have to trim away some of that excess. So I have 3 little balls worth. Looks like I have 1 ball too many, so I'm going to go in and trim that 1 little extra ball off. And there you have it. Now I'm going to spend a little time just making sure that all of that ball chain is fully embedded into the crystal clay and that it is fully adhered onto there and it's attached. I'm also double checking that my dome is nice and round the way I'd like it. And then the last step of this is you're going to use a wet wipe. You're going to come in and make sure that all of that crystal clay is off of your ring shank, and then you're going to gently wash the surface of your ball chain. This one is much faster, but you do the exact same steps with this one. Then the last step on this is you're going to do the same, is you're going to use your wet wipe to wipe away any clay that might have gotten onto the surface of the bezel or onto the chain. Make sure that the chain is fully embedded down into the clay. Now we're going to let these pieces cure for 12 hours. That clay will be rock hard, and then we'll remove the tape off of the back side. Now that you have a good idea of how this was created, you can see easily how these other items were done. So once your pieces are fully embedded and you've let that cure for 12 hours, you're ready to assemble them using other Nunn Design beads, charms, hoops, chain, and you can create fun pieces like you're seeing here. The only difference on these is how you apply the epoxy clay into the base of the finding on a curved surface. And you can see a video of me making something very similar to this one and another one of the Nunn Design videos here on Beadaholique. This is Becky Nunn with Nunn Design, showing you how you can embed ball chain, faceted ball chain, rhinestone chain, into the Nunn Design findings to create beautiful pieces like this using epoxy clay, the crystal clay. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.